Gary Streisky back with you on SportsCenter. We are in the DFW. Cooper Flagg and the Mavericks just snapped an 8-game losing streak coming off a win against Memphis, but now they get a wagon that is Spider Mitchell and these Cleveland Cavaliers. Evan Mobley on his way to a game-high 29 points, just doing a little paint work, you know what I'm saying? Benjamin Moore in this thing. Cavs go up 3, second quarter. Cookies. Donovan Mitchell stepping in front of the Flagg pass, and that is just textbook, man. The windmill gather up over Flagg. Cavs, though, up 1, so Dallas playing him close. James Harden blowing by Najee Marshall, and then he's going to get that. Here, are you crying? No, just a little teardrop. Just a teardrop. Cavs up by 18. Oh, Cooper Flagg. Oh, 19-year-old legs. Oh, he's a high flyer. Mavs are down by 16. Flagg had 25 points. Look at that's. He went through the entirety of the Mavericks defense. Cavaliers win 138-105. Micah Parsons in the building.
Man, you don't play here anymore. Pacers, Knicks, this is Jalen Brunson and company. Knicks haven't won 3 straight at the Pacers since the early 90s. The Reggie Miller days, the Brothers Davis days. This is Jalen Brunson. That's a little mid-range, Jay. He's working on his 38th career game of 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 dimes, and then Brunson doing most of his damage in the first half, most if not all. He gets that, great little space. 23 in the first half. He was just 1 of 6 the rest of the way. He had a game-high 29, but only 6 of them coming in the second half. About a minute to go first half. OG Anunoby dishing to Robinson, who trailed and really started the whole thing. Knicks are up 12 at the break. Mike Brown said of Anunoby, because OG was huge for us, he was a man on a mission. His second game of 25, 5-5 with the Knicks. Both of them coming this month, finishing with 25. I almost said even 25, but it's an odd number. And then Brunson finding Robinson. Got a Mitchell-palooza at the rim. He had a career-high 22 rebounds. Bring your green hat. Brunson to Anunoby. On the break, I mean, just drop that right in the double coverage. You know what I mean? They were running the Tampa 2. He dropped it right between the safety and the corner. 101-92. I'm just kidding. There's not a quarterback in New York who can do that. Senior writer for the NBA, Vincent Goodwill, is with us, joining us on SportsCenter AM. Vince, New York 43-25. There are still areas to address for this Knicks team. Why is this squad channeling a Mike Tomlin mantra here?
Mike Tomlin's mantra is the standard. Mike Brown's mantra is you want to embrace the standard. And one of those issues they have to address is Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Towns' numbers across the board are down from last season, down from his own career production, minutes, shots, points, rebounds. But since All-Star break, he's been averaging around 60% from the field, 48 from 3. He's starting to get it. He told me a couple of weeks ago, look, everything is different this year from before. I'm learning to adjust along the way. And now Jalen Brunson, secondarily, his production has gone down a bit after the All-Star break. Usually around 27 points per game before. Now he's at 23 and 8 assists. The production is down, the assists are up. So it's finding a balance between the 2 top scorers for the New York Knicks that they're going to try to have to figure out before the playoffs begin in 6 weeks.
They and everybody else in the Eastern Conference is trying to chase down Detroit at the top of the table. What's the Pistons' approach, Vincent, down the stretch as they try to secure that top seed?
Well, just maybe a week ago, they were 2.5 games up on the Boston Celtics, and people were saying, hey, maybe Detroit is ripe to get caught, which would have been a disaster from a lot of people's perspective if they had led the East all season long, only to lose it to a surging Celtics team. J.B. Bickerstaff said, hey, at some point throughout the playoffs, you're going to have to win a game on the road. A couple of Pistons staffers actually said, we focus better on the road. We don't need everything working in our favor. But when I asked All-Star center Jalen Duren about it, he said, look, we want to start games and series at home, and we want to have a game 7 at home. With 5 games up in the Eastern Conference, they look well on their way to securing home court advantage throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs.
That's amazing for a team that 2 seasons ago was 14 168. That is Vincent Goodwill with the
Detroit Pistons bringing the Magic back to Motor City. They beat the Grizzlies 126-110 last night to get their third straight victory after a season-long 4-game skid. Detroit now 25-8 at home this season, the best record in the East. Overall, 48-18, on pace for their third best win percentage in franchise history, leading the East by 5 games, looking to be the #1 seed for the first time since the 2007 playoffs, due in large part to Cade Cunningham. 594 assists on the season, the most of any player in the NBA. And it is just the perfect time to chat with a guy who won back-to-back titles with the Pistons in '89 and '90, Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas. It's so great to be with you again. And Isaiah, when you watch the Pistons this season and consider that you were able to pair with Joe Dumars, right, in winning your titles, do you buy into this assessment by some that Cunningham has to have a #2 scorer for them to contend for a title?
I think right now their defense is carrying them, and they are finding ways to spread the ball around. And I like the way that he uses Duran and Stewart. Most of the time, they think about perimeter scorers carrying the load from the three-point line. But when you look at what Cade is doing with the Pistons, he's actually initiating the center position, letting Duran be a part of it, letting Stewart be a part of it. So they're high pick and roll. He's deadly in the mid-range. And then he's a willing passer, so he gives the ball up to a post player. So I think they got enough offense to win, and the defense is excellent.
I mean, and then you have now Jason Tatum coming back with the Celtics. The Knicks are playing well, but the Pistons are combined 6-1 against those two teams. So I'm wondering who you see, at least at this point, is the biggest threat to Detroit coming out of the East.
It's got to be Boston. With Tatum coming back, Brown being, as good as he is, having an MVP season, you got to look at Tatum and Brown and White, those big three. They got experience, they got know-how. And then they got a coaching staff that really understands how to work everyone in. So to me, Boston is the biggest threat. And, like we talked before, Hannah, Boston, Detroit, that's classic, right?
Yeah, who wouldn't want to sign up for that? I know you would.
I wouldn't count out the Knicks, though.
Yeah.
Bringing in, Alvarado, I think he's a difference maker in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He can change the pace defensively and offensively, and he gives you that type of I would say tenacity that you need. So I don't count the Knicks out in the playoff situation. And Brunson is he's still one of the clutch scorers in the game. Can get a shot, knows how to get a shot, and to me those three teams. And so my top four, right?
Yeah.
Detroit, Boston, Cleveland, New York.
Okay.
I think Cleveland, what they did at the deadline with Harden is, pretty major. And Orlando would be my sleeper.
Yeah, Orlando's had some very big wins lately. They also have a huge week coming up, so I think that's going to be a big litmus test to see what they're doing going forward. Can we talk quickly about the West, though, because you and I were there in Philly together on Throwback Tuesday, back together for NBC, and we saw Wemby and the Spurs up close and personal. This is a team that's won 16 of 18. There are those who say that their lack of playoff experience might be a concern, that they're, skipping the line. But how do you see them in terms of contending this year?
When you have a generational talent like Wemby, they normally skip the line. There is no, succession. And Wemby is, he's a game changer. He changes everything defensively and offensively. And I like the way their guard play. He allows them to get up in pressure because he can protect the rim. But also on the offensive side of the ball, he's such a magnet that you have to almost double team him sometimes. He's a willing passer out of the post, mid-range game. He's got that. He's got the long-range game. And then the unique thing about him is he's got handle. He's got skill, so he can break you down. So at the end of the game, he's a go-to player. What's a go-to player? Go-to player is I can make my own shot, A. B, I can get others a shot. C, when I'm pressured, right, I don't turn it over. And D, if I get fouled, I can go to the foul line and make my free throws. That's your ultimate go-to player, and Wemby is that on the offensive side of the ball.
I love that checklist, and he certainly checked all of those off. It was really fun being with you and seeing him in person last week, and then you went from Philly to Chicago. So I want to pivot away from basketball for a moment for something really important. You were part of history. You were asked to eulogize the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and I want to play for the folks at home a portion of what you said about him that day in Chicago.
When society was telling me I was a nobody, when society was telling me we don't even want to go to school with you, this man walked down the street and walked up to me and my mom had marched with him before. He said hello to my mom, and then he did the unthinkable. Mama Jackson, your husband kneeled down and he looked me in my eyes. And that man said, you are somebody.
It's just incredible. For folks who don't know, obviously, he was a mentor, a family friend. As you grew up in Chicago, he eulogized your mother. In fact, I know that was something that you talked about. What did it mean for you to be able to remember his impact?
You know, to eulogize him and to humanize him and let everyone know the type of man and person he was in my community, in my neighborhood during that time. And I know, you know, you and I, Bob Costas, we talked about it, you know, the night before, just trying to figure out to get the right words. And, you know, I was born in 1961, coming out of Jim Crow. And during that period of time, we were fighting for equal rights, civil rights. My neighborhood had been decimated by riots after Martin Luther King was assassinated. You know, there were, I mean, you couldn't imagine the conditions that we were living in. Actually, during that period of time, you know, the mayor had a shoot to kill order on our neighborhood during that period of time. There was military in our neighborhood, you know, army men walking up and down the street. We were really under, you know, under house arrest, so to speak. We couldn't come outside. And Reverend Jackson was the only voice during that period of time saying, hey, we're going to come out of this. We're going to be all right. I was all of, you know, 9, 10 years old, trying to figure out where we're going to get a meal, how we're going to eat, you know, where we're going to go. And there was one man in the neighborhood walking around telling us as little kids that, hey, you are somebody and you're going to be all right. We're going to come out of this. You can't imagine the impact that had on all of us during that period of time, because without his voice, I don't know where we would have been. And I said this before in my speech, and I stand by it today. In my neighborhood, he was our Nelson Mandela in our neighborhood.
Yeah, replacing fear and despair with words of hope. And those seeds that were planted in you led to an incredible career in basketball, and then a career beyond that. You shared a lot of your stories with me, many, many hours on the NBA and NBC, and we got to really reflect on that time as well last week and be together. And I'm wondering what that meant for you to get back with all of those folks that you started your second career with.
Well, Ben, I mean, that night, all of us getting together and just talking and reminiscing, it dawned on me, and I said to you, you being a pioneer in this space, learning from you, and then working with Bob Costas. I mean, just icons in the business. And when I came into the business, I had to learn so much. And all of you were so generous with me. And I've been so fortunate, and I'm so grateful that I've not only had the opportunity to learn and be mentored, but also to be able to call all of your friends and to share and talk about memories, laugh. I think we laughed more and had more good times just reminiscing and talking. Some stories was just beautiful to tell.
Yeah, and listen, right back at you. Everything that we learned from you and continue to is so valued, as is our really now lifelong friendship. So, Isaiah Thomas, love you. Thanks for being on SportsCenter.
Love you more.
We should come on every week.
Yes. I'll be a
Thank you.
guest host.